make sense once I start explaining to you.
Abernathy described how his friend slowly died in his arms, and then after seeing Martin Luther King die in his arms, he left the hospital to conduct business and funeral arrangements during the aftermath of Martin's death with the other clergymen who were there in Memphis. Now we're going to fast forward his book to page 445. We'll pick up where Abernathy says, where he asks his friends to take him back to where his friend is.
Where my friend is, I told Solomon Jones, that would be at the morgue. We finally found it, and when I walked in the door, I was met by a young white man with an anxious look on his face. "I'm glad you have come," he said. "We need someone to officially identify the body." I nodded and sighed. The horrors of the day were not over yet. I followed him down a long hallway into a room and saw on a metal table a body covered with a piece of brown paper that reminded me of a wrapping paper butchers use in country stores. Protruding from underneath were 2 feet, and on one of the toes a tag was tied. The young man lifted the piece of paper, and I saw him again, somehow more dead than he had seen when I left him in the hospital room. I nodded. "This is the body of Martin Luther King, Jr.," I said. The young man let the paper settle with a crackling sound. "There's one other thing," said the young man. "The coroners would like to do an autopsy, but I'll need permission. Would you be willing to sign?" "Not really," I said. "That's something Mrs. King ought to decide." "I'd like you to call her," he said. "It's important." "How is it important?" I asked. It seemed incredible to me that such a procedure could make any difference now. It might tell us something we did not know before, something that could save another person's life. I hesitated. All right, I said finally. "I'll call Mrs. King." I did not really want to bother Coretta. I was certain she was in shock, as I still was, and she had the children to comfort. Why burden her with this decision? But I dialed the numbers anyway, partly in response to what the man had said, partly because to do so was the course of least resistance. Coretta sounded terribly tired, and we talked for a minute about what would happen tomorrow. Then I asked her. "I do not know," she said. "I'll leave it up to you. I guess Martin would have agreed to it, but you make the decision." I hung up and turned to the young man. "All right," I said. "You can do the autopsy." "Who will sign?" he asked. "I'll sign," I told him, and I did. In retrospect, I wonder if it was strictly legal. I suspect not. Yet, if you check back through the records, you will find somewhere a permission to do a post-mortem with only my signature on it, not that of close kin.
Page from a book called Order to Kill, authored by William Pepper. William Pepper is the former lawyer of James Earl Ray. During 1998, he had was this lawyer during the reopening of the James Earl Ray case in 1998. Anyway, this page here is one of the pages out of his book, and it's this picture of the Lorraine Motel up here, and bullet fragments from the bullets that shot Dr. Martin Luther King. And here is an autopsy photo of Dr. Dr. King's body. And it says that it's from the autopsy photo evidence from the Memphis Police Department. Okay? Here's a blow-up shot of that same photo of Dr. King's body. Now, I had scratched this out. It says autopsy photo where the death slug is painfully visible just beneath the skin under Dr. King's left shoulder blade. Memphis Police Department evidence file. Now, I want you to look at this. They're claiming that this is Dr. King's back. This is not Dr. King's back. If you look down here, right here, that's Dr. King's buttocks. Okay? This is Dr. King's stomach. If this was Dr. King's back, you would see shoulder blades, the bones. And his butt would be facing towards you. Excuse the expression, but you would slightly see the crack of his buttocks right in front of you. But that's not what you see here. What you have here, you have his hip right here, and you can see partial of his buttocks, which is showing his behind is facing the other way. It's not facing you, it's facing the other way. This is his stomach, okay? They're holding both his arms back so you can see this. And this here is his neck and his chin. And this here is his chest. Abernathy said that there was a large hole in his chest, big enough for him to put both his fists in. This is it. Now, Abernathy also described that they had some sort of surgery on Martin Luther King, post-mortem surgery. What they did was they took skin, most likely from his back, and grafted it on his chest to try to cover up the massive wound that was made in his chest. Which, the only way he got a wound this large in his chest, he had to have been hit from the back. The bullet hit him from the back, and it exploded out of his chest, which made this hole. This is the blood you see still soaking through the skin that they tried to cover up with. And if you look up here, you can see it. No, you can see up here by the shoulder, you can see where it looks like some stitches. Okay, and I'm going to show you the next photo so that you can see that he is in the same position as his body laid on the balcony. Now, as you see Dr. King laying on the balcony, you see his face, you see that towel on his face, and his back and his neck is pretty much in the same position. That's his chin, that's his neck, his head bent. See that his head is bent? This is another close-up picture. His towel over the side of his face. His head is turned, his neck is bent. On the left side, see if we find some other picture here that I had. Okay, and I tried with this slide, I tried to show this is the autopsy of Dr. King's body. Okay, this is his body on the balcony up top, and I want you to focus on how his head is turned up here on the balcony, how his head is turned to the left side of his shoulder because the white towel is on the right side of his face. And you see down here, this corpse, this neck is leaning toward the left side of the shoulder, while it is exposing the right side of his neck. So what you are looking at is Dr. King's chest. The conspirators grabbed the skin from his back and surgically joined it to his chest to cover up the massive hole made by the blast. Pay no attention to that small circle the arrow is pointing in. Most Americans believe that Dr. Martin Luther King was shot once in his neck. However, if you observe this picture, you will find King's chin and neck tilted to the left. That is the same position as his body laid on the balcony. Exposed to be seen is the right side of his neck. As you can see, there are no traces of a massive bullet wound to Dr. King's neck or jaw. Question: if the conspirators were trying to sell the James Earl Ray theory to the American people, then why not show a picture of where the bullet tore off a portion of Dr. King's jaw or neck if the wound really exists? Dr. King's neck had this kind of a massive wound to it when the bullet struck him in the neck, as of what Jesse Jackson claimed, Billy Cowles claimed, and Andrew Young claimed, and this medical examiner, Dr. Jerry Francisco, drew on his drawing of this massive wound. First of all, the jugular vein would have mean a lot of blood would have been coming out of Dr. King's neck, is which what they described that Dr. King was bleeding, gushes of blood was coming out of his neck. Well, here's a towel that they put on Dr. King's face. If his neck was bleeding, this towel would be red, not white. It would be red. Again, they put this is Dr. King's body, they put on that gurney. That's his face, that's that towel on the side of his face. That towel is clean white. It's not red, it's white. And when we look at the evidence of Dr. King being on that balcony and then putting that towel, claiming that they put the towel to stop the flow of blood, but then that towel we see is obvious, that's a fact. That towel is not red, it is white. Evidence of that towel corroborates the evidence of this photo of Dr. King's body by the Memphis Police Department evidence file. This body of Dr. King, which they are saying this is his body, it has no bullet wound or no wound to the chin or the neck, as you can see. That's why the towel is white, because there was no wound to the neck or jaw. And if there was, why not show a real photo of Dr. King's wound? Why not show a real photo of Dr. King's face so that the people could see he really got shot in the jaw? Why cut this off? They cut his face off. And then they're going to lie by describing this as his shoulder blade, as his back. This ain't his back. Again, like I'm telling you, this is his chest, this is his stomach, that is his buttocks, this is the front of Dr. King. This is his chin, that is his neck, proving that they lied when they claimed that he had a massive bullet wound in his neck and jaw. They shot this man. This man was shot in his back, and the bullet came out of his chest. By the facts showing us that Dr. King was not shot in the neck on the right side of his face, but he was shot in the back. That means that this photo was staged, and these people on this was part of for some actors acting on here, selling you a strip, told to point in the direction where they would tell the public where the bullet came from. They were part of the story, part of the lie. Billy Cowles, Andrew Young, Jesse Jackson.